Hey everybody, Coach here. Hey, happy new year for 2024. I hope this finds you whole, happy, healthy, well, and full of excitement for the coming year. I know it does for Maestro and I. This episode is going to be dealing with the landscape probability of butt kiss for us here, and yet a 12 as far as landscape planning tasks and landscape ideas for 24. We've got 24 of them coming at you today. Little tasks and big tasks for Brook and Pond here. And this is the time of year that we do it. In January, where I know darn well I'm not going to be out doing very much in the yard. So without further ado, thanks for spending a few minutes with me, and let's get going. So for Maestro and I, before we kick off this 24 big ideas, this big bucket dream list thing, we've got about 5 months before we can actually do it. We've got frozen ground out here. We got our first sub-zero temperatures coming up next weekend, and we are just kind of waiting it out, doing all the planning, done to the design already. Now reaching out to some of the locals as far as resources. I got a source for some topsoils and for some compost and cement work, etc. But let's jump off into this 24. I'm going to go through them pretty fast because I know your day and your time is important, so let's get at it, shall we? So number one is my roof line. If you notice, this doesn't have a lot to do with landscaping, but actually it really does, because drainage actually starts right there at the roof line. This house was never provided gutters whatsoever. So we will be, in the spring, we will be having seamless gutters put on the house with downspouts, which leads me to number two. Number two will be ground drainage. Ground drainage that goes along the building, along the back of the building, and goes out and over the driveways, towards the pond, etc. Because the way it is right now, water comes down off this roof, it hits this area down at my feet here, and it just turns to ice, unless I'm on it like that. And we have had ice build up that's been almost 12 inches tall. And I'm not going to tolerate that next year whatsoever. Very, very poor design, very poor planning, but we're going to correct it. So number three is an outdoor living area, both in the front yard and in the backyard. If you look around me, what we basically have is a gravel parking lot right here. That is it. We've got a front slider and a front door that's actually on the side of the building. A little weird, but we'll make it work. In this particular case, we're going to have hardscape come in. We're going to shrink the parking area here because we have so much area behind the camera for parking and turnaround. We really plan on keeping the ability to drive all the way around the house area. So the front patio is going to be, 20 by 20. And in the back, we have some grading to do, but there's no outdoor living space whatsoever. And right now, I'm pointing east. Behind the camera is north. So in the summertime, we're going to have sun coming up right here. So it'd be nice to have a little bit of shade until noon or so, even though we don't have super hot temperatures up here. But it'd be nice to have a little bit of shade. So hardscape back here, drainage as well. And one other thing which leads me to number four is a retaining wall and support around this utility pole right here. It is, if the snow wasn't there, you would see this little mound of dirt. So we are going to chip away the concrete pad. We're going to excavate everything out of here down to grade, put another pad in for pole stability, and then go ahead and landscape with a probably 24 to 30 inch retaining wall and sitting cap. So number four is another little addition to outdoor living, and that is a small sitting deck here that overlooks the pond, which is behind me. That particular area is probably going to be around 10 by 10 or so. It's not going to be very big. This area that I'm standing in right now is going to be leveled up just a little bit with the tailings from the backyard grading. And then we will put a very simplistic little sitting deck and then have a bug room over that. Because we're in northern Maine, and in the spring and early summertime, there are bugs. So number 5 is right down at my feet. Although functional, the driveway apron leading to the garage door is just gravel. And I would prefer to have something more formal in the form of a concrete slab. So we're probably going to be doing a 20 by 20 concrete slab apron out here, to where if we're parking vehicles or parking garden equipment or washing or maintaining, we're not just in the gravel. So number 5 is going to be a garage apron. So number 6 is a garage door opening that is much larger than the little 8 by 7 that I have right now. It cannot accommodate our truck, so we have to do a gable end reconstruction and put in a bigger door. And the door that you see behind me there, that's going to get relocated over onto the back side to where we can access in and out with whatever we need, a secondary big garage door. So number 7 is the relocation of these monsters right here, these large landscape boulders. Probably a little out of scale for the size and the ideas that we have for the front yard. So these are going to get relocated. And just to give you an idea how big these are, check this out. So check out one of these. This thing is just a little too big, and I think the previous owners put them here because since they were here only part-time, snow accumulated so much, they didn't want snow plows and stuff to go into the building. But this thing here has got to be at least, I would say, 6,000 to 8,000 pounds. And we're going to relocate them down the driveway, kind of where one is kind of next to the lawn, and the other one is going to frame the driveway entrance down there. And the third one, to be determined. All right, moving on to number 8. So number 8 is a boulder edging, believe it or not. A boulder edging, and the ones that you see right underneath my foot here. These guys are going to get slid down towards the edge of this kind of unstable hillside and drop off. This is all fairly fresh fill, and I've noticed through heavy rains and stuff that we get a little bit of washing coming down from the front of the house and going down in this area. So I'm going to take, by the means of an excavator, dig a little bit out back here, slide these down just a little bit, and then in between them I'm going to topsoil the area and get various little ground covers, perennials, bulbs, etc., and make it kind of a living wall. And we're going to have it go from the utility pole that's in front of me all the way along the edge and all the way down in front of the deck that I told you a few minutes ago. So there's probably going to be about 50 additional boulders here. It's going to look super cool, and still there'll be plenty of space to be able to drive through here. So number 9 is down here at my feet right now. And these big 8x8 timbers that were brought in as kind of a partition from one area to another, parking area compared to, anyway, we're going to use these 8x8s in a little different way. Some of them are going to be used for pier support for the deck, and they're going to get repurposed in other areas for edging, but probably at ground level, not so much raised up, because if you change the grade so much, you start raising things 8 inches up, it's not going to make any sense here. And these have been really kind of hard when it's snowed to be able to keep an eye on them so you're not running vehicles and snowblower into them all the time. So these guys, very valuable pieces of wood. I'm certainly not going to get rid of them, and we're going to use them in a different fashion, a different way, both here in the front and in the backyard. So number 10 on the list is bringing a little light into the garage. A lot of our garden equipment and other things are in there temporarily, but eventually I would like to have some natural light. Right now, it's nothing but artificial light inside the garage. And when I roll up the garage door, it still doesn't bring in enough light to really work in. So 4 garage windows going in this spring or summer, probably summer. But it'll obviously give some natural light in there to where you can work, and also visual to what's going on outside if we're in there and what's going on out here. So garage windows. So number 11 is the combo task, and that is relocating these green giant arborvitae, another part of the yard, and our planting plan. The planting plan is going to be somewhat extensive, and it's mostly going to be foundation and then patio plantings with a few plantings of trees and such out at the lawn perimeter. That lawn's really going to get shrunk. But transplanting these guys and the planting plan is going to involve probably about 50 to 80 plants altogether. And those are trees, shrubs, perennials, and ground cover. Okay, so number 12 is bringing some irrigation capabilities outside. Right now, all the water that I have, there's one faucet in the front, which by the way froze up and has to be fixed in the spring. Thank God for shutoff valves. But number 2 is poorly placed inside the heating oil shed in here. So I want to bring some irrigation out, put some valves either in ground or on top of ground, and then have the capabilities to be able to blow it out. But if we travel again and we have a dry spell up here, I want the ability to be able to turn on water by Wi-Fi connection and be able to take care of plantings, whether in container or in the ground, if we get a prolonged drought time in the summertime. And number 13 is going to be bringing additional water out from the utility room here, both cold and hot, so that I can use it to wash off garden equipment and keep the truck and trailers as clean as possible up here in the salt zone. Hey, number 14 is I'm going to try and create a large wood shed for all the wood that we have cut down just since being here in October. We almost have all of 24-25's winter wood already cut and stacked, but it's in a way, in a fashion that I just don't think looks very good. So we're going to try to create a building back here right on the edge of the pond that'll be able to encapsulate 2 to 3 cord of wood for each winter and call it good. I think it'll look really good. We'll match it with the house roof, and we'll do wood siding and on pallets. It'll look really good. So number 15 is a large outdoor portable garage, and that's going to be to house trailers, camper, garden equipment, and whatever else I can find to put in there, and be able to alleviate the garage of all its storage capability, except for just a few things, like a vehicle. But we're gonna try to get one of those large, heavy-duty, marine-grade vinyl covered type of portable garage sheds, and it's going to be a big one. It's going to be about 16 feet wide, 40 feet long, and 16 feet tall, because I need at least 12.4 to get the truck and camper in there to take the camper off and be able to put it inside. Big task, probably more than just Maestro and I. So the next one on the list is out here at our roadway. This is our gravel driveway entrance. And although pretty by Mother Nature alone, I would like to make it just a little bit more, bump it up a bit. The first one I'm going to do is I'm going to bring one of those big boulders and I'm going to frame this side of the driveway with one of them so that it kind of matches the big one that's over on this side over here. And we'll have an address sign on there, Brook and Pond name on that one. And then we're going to do a couple of log retainers out here, backfill with some good soils, and do a little perennial bed out here. Got to be careful where I put stuff because of snowplow season, etc. And I also have to be careful what we plant as far as deer and moose forage. So we got to research that a little bit. Most of the time it'll be kind of deciduous perennials and some bulbs and other things that'll be down and gone during this time of year. We don't have to worry about it. Okay, on to the next one. Our next task is going to be down here at the brook. One of the favorite parts of this landscape, bar none, on everything that I like about our property, is this brook to drive in and over when we come in. But this quaint little brook becomes a raging torrent during certain times of the year, depending on whether it's snow melt or big summer rains or even tropical storms that we suffered last summer. This particular area here becomes a huge whirlpool down in this area. So I'm going to bring in boulders and reinforce this area and backfill it with smaller rocks and really make a diversion so it goes right through the 4-foot culvert that's here. Also in front of me over here, I got to do the same thing on the other bank where quite a washout happened not too long ago in December when we had lots of snow and then 2 big rainstorms that washed all the snow away, and this became rather dangerous down here as far as losing our driveway. So that's the next task. All right, on to another one. So an additional task I have is kind of a cleanup task, and one that I don't want to cause any sort of brook diversion. All the down timber that came down in the storms recently, all of this has got to get cleaned up, cut up and moved off of creek bed, and make sure that everything is stabilized and cleared so that if we have big gushers that come down here, they're not going to get, the timber is not going to get pushed downstream, pushed up against culverts, etc. So it'll be a chainsaw party out here one day. So one of the tasks is going to be really important as far as maintenance goes, and I've talked about this on other videos, and that is driveway maintenance. This particular driveway was put in fairly well in the beginning. Now it has a kind of a ½ inch or ¼ inch minus as far as the driveway base. And although good, it's held up really well, it's starting to get kind of thin. And it's getting thin for a number of reasons. Number one, a little bit of washout, which I'm going to take care of as far as driveway maintenance on the edges. And then also snow blower. Snow blower kind of comes in here and picks up little bits and pieces and throws it up in the forest when I do the driveway. So we're probably going to do this towards the end of the season, and we're going to end up bringing in, I don't know, 4 to 5 10-wheel loads, probably 10 tons each, and resurface the driveway for the fall. Probably one of the last things that we do. That's because there's going to be so much traffic up and down the driveway during the season. I just didn't feel like doing it during the season. Hey, we're almost done. One of our last ones is this worn out, dilapidated culvert that's down here at the second brook coming into the pond behind you. This one here is about 3 feet across, maybe 40 inches, and it's been beat up quite a bit. So much so that there's been erosion on either side of the culvert when the creek is really running, that I think instead of keeping this, I'm going to remove it, put a bridge across here for a forest trail, maybe for next year, and be able to do something to slow the water down in the way of rock. I do have some rocks on the hill here that I can use an excavator and pull them out, and I can literally put them in here and get them to do kind of the same thing. Just slow the water and direct the water a little more naturally and get rid of this thing. I think the original owners had an idea of driving over this and doing whatever they were doing, especially excavating for the pond behind you. But now there was never any maintenance again. So this area has been kind of destroyed. So a nice wooden bridge across it with some rocks underneath it, I think it's going to look a heck of a lot better and function a lot better as well. And one of the big ones on our list, left to last, it's not so much landscaping necessarily, but landscaping affects it as far as outside and what I have to do in here. And I'm in the garage right now. And you can see it's basically just a shell, and we need to come in and insulate it properly, put in a vapor barrier, and do some siding, both ceiling and walls. That's going to be a big job for one person, but we're going to get it done. And last but certainly not least is the ever-present task of clearing and cleaning the forest area that surrounds Brook and Pond, a whole whopping 2.5 acres. I chisel away little bits every single week. You can see behind me I got stacked wood for next year, and I got another burn pile already created. I got big leaners that are leaning up over here, and a little bit at a time, one chainsaw blade at a time, I'll get it done, hopefully in 2024. And that's the list that we have, the task and landscape ideas that we have going on for 2024. But the bigger question is, what do you guys have planned? I would really like to know. I'd like to know if you guys have a landscape project, small or large, almost free or tens of thousands of dollars. What are you guys doing? If you need any help, if you need any guidance or anything else, I'm only an email away. youryardcoach@gmail.com. Please don't forget about the website And if you'd like to help support us just a little bit on some of the tasks that we're doing, visit us over on Patreon. I really appreciate your time. If you've stuck around this long in the video, consider subscribing, give me a like, you know how the algorithm works, and I will catch you guys next Friday. I appreciate your time. As always, to your landscape success, goodbye for now.